Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta
Jaya
Vrinda.
Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya
Jaya
Nityananda.
Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta
Jaya
Vrinda.
Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta
Shri
Vrinda.
Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Srila
Jai
Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai.
Jai
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Samaveta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to today's Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita reading. We're reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, Chapter 4, Sri Madhavendra Puri's devotional service. So, yesterday in this chapter we read, so the Annakut festival was celebrated several times. Every day a different village was coming and sponsoring the Annakut, and Madhavendra Puri all day long would be engaged in serving Gopal, preparing the, arranging for the festival, making the offerings, and then arranging for the prasadam to be distributed to everyone, and then finally giving rest to the deity in the night. Again, the next day morning, early in the morning, another village would be ready. Like this, day after day for several days, this Annakut festival was observed for Gopal. Then we saw that yes, they were bringing gifts. So many wealthy capitalists, they brought um, many gifts in Mathura, especially. There were many wealthy capitalists, so they would bring costly gifts, food items, gold, silver, um, like that, and yeah, food items, cloth, like this. And then every Brajbasi donated a cow to Gopal. So now Gopal's Goshala had hundreds and thousands of cows. And then one Kshatriya, he had a temple constructed for Gopal. And yeah, so let's see what else happened yesterday. Yeah, the people of Mathura, who are very big capitalists, also brought various presentations and offered them before the deity in devotional service. These thus countless presentations of gold, silver, garments, yeah, scented articles and eatables arrived. The store of Gopal increased daily. One very rich Kshatriya of the royal order constructed a temple, and then someone made cooking utensils, cooking pots for the deity, and someone constructed boundary walls. Yes. So one person got the temple built, another person had the pots for cooking for Gopal. He had them made. So I don't know if they're clay pots or maybe metal pots. They also use brass pots and copper pots. So he must have had them also made. So it is said that he made cooking pots for Gopal's bhoga, and then one person had a boundary wall constructed around the temple. Each and every family residing in the land of Rajabhumi contributed a cow. In this way, thousands of cows became the property of Gopal. Next. गौड़ होइते आइला दुई वैरागी ब्राह्मण पुरी गोसाई राखिलो तारे कोरिया जतना गौड़ होइते आइला गौड़ means Bengal गौड़ होइते आइला dui vairagi brahmana, so two brahmanas in the renounced order means sannyasis. uh, Two brahmanas in the renounced order came to Govardhan from Bengal. Puri Gosai Rakhilo Tare Korea Jatana. So Madhavendra Puri convinced them by his efforts. Madhavendra Puri convinced them to stay back there in Govardhan to serve Gopal. Two Brahmanas in the sannyas order visited from Bengal. Madhavendra Puri convinced them by his efforts to stay back in Govardhan and serve Gopal. Eventually, two Brahmanas in the renounced order arrived from Bengal, and Madhavendra Puri, who liked them very much, kept them in Vrindavan and gave them all kinds of comforts. Okay. Sei dui shishya kori seva samarpilo, Raja seva hoy purira ananda badilo. So these two Brahmanas, renounced in the renounced order, they became disciples of Madhavendra Puri. Sei dui shishya kori seva samarpilo, and then he handed over the service of Gopal to these two disciples, the two Brahmanas who came from Bengal. They became his disciples, and Madhavendra Puri handed over the service of Gopal to these two disciples. Raja Seva Hoy Purira Ananda Badila. So, seeing the Lord's opulent worship, Madhavendra Puri became his happiness or his ecstasy, his bliss increased. He became very happy. He became very pleased to see the opulent service of Gopal. Raja Seva Hoy, Purira Ananda Badilo. These two were then initiated by Madhavendra Puri, and he entrusted them with the daily service of the Lord. This service was performed continuously, and the worship of the deity became very gorgeous. Thus, Madhavendra Puri was very pleased. Purport. The six Goswamis and their followers started many temples, including the temples of Govinda, Gopinath, Madan Mohan, Radha Damodar, Shyam Sundar, Radha Raman, and Gokulananda. So these are the seven principal deities of Vrindavan that were whose service was established by the Goswamis. Sri Radha Govinda, Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Gopinath. This you can remember. Sri Govinda, Gopinath, Madan Mohan. Yes. So Govinda, Gopinath, Madan Mohan. Also Radha Damodar, worshipped by Jiva Goswami. Shyam Sundar, Radha Shyam Sundar. That was by Baladev Vidyabhushan. That was later generation, of course. But Shyamananda Pandit. So Shyamananda Pandit is Narottam Das Thakur's contemporary. So they are the students of Jiva Goswami. So Shyam Sundar, Radha Shyam Sundar. Radha Raman is Gopal Bhatta Goswami. and Radha Gokulananda. Radha Gokulananda, who is the Acharya who worshipped Radha Gokulananda? I'm not recollecting. I'll tell you. So the six Goswamis and their followers. So not just the Goswamis, their followers also. Like Radha Shamsundar was the next generation. So the six Goswamis and their followers started many temples, including the temples of Govinda, Gopinath, Madan Mohan, Radha Damodar, Shamsundar, Radha Raman, and Gokulananda. Forget the name of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Anyway, the disciples of the Goswamis were entrusted with the Seva Puja, deity worship of these temples. It was not that the disciples were family members of the original Goswamis. Important. Well, they were all renunciates where they will have family members. Or you may say from previous family. But they left their families and they came, right? So the seva was entrusted to their followers. It doesn't mean that it is a seminal succession, that the father is a priest, so then his son is entitled to the seva, and then his son and his son. In this way, the worship of the deity is the propriety, right, of that family. No, it's not like that. But it was handed down generation after generation in the disciplic succession. So the disciple of the Goswami would take the responsibility of service of the deity, then his disciple, like that. So this succession is not seminal succession, it is disciplic succession. The disciples of the Goswamis were entrusted with the seva puja of these temples. It was not that the disciples were family members of the original Goswamis. All the Goswamis were in the renounced order of life. And Jiva Goswami in particular was a lifelong brahmachari. At present, yes, lifelong brahmachari because he never did any service outside. He didn't work or anything, right? When he was young, he was with his parents taking care of them, and then he just joined the Rupa and Sanatan Goswamis in Vrindavan. So he never really worked to earn his livelihood or anything. He didn't do any job, right? So he was always a brahmachari. Grihastha means, of course, married, but also, if you work, brahmachari is not, he's not allowed to work and earn a livelihood and earn income. That's not a brahmachari. Brahmachari means he's completely dependent on the spiritual master. So even if he does anything, it's not his income. Everything, what if the spiritual master orders him, he will go and he will work. And then Gokulananda is Loknath Swami. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mataji. Sri Radha Gokulananda is Loknath Swami. Loknath Goswami. Okay. Yeah. I remember the pastime of how the deity came to Loknath Goswami, but I don't remember the name. I didn't remember the name. Sri Radha Gokulananda. Thank you. Yeah. So Jiva Goswami is a lifelong, because I was thinking Rup Sanatan Goswamis also, we never read that they had families and children or anything. Their brother Anupam was married and had children. But why only Jiva Goswami is mentioned as a lifelong brahmachari? Because they worked for the Muslim government. They were prime minister, finance minister. They had their own properties, that was given to them, gifted. They had their salaries and all that. So that's why. But Jiva Goswami, no, never worked. Directly a brahmachari. All the Goswamis were in the renounced order of life. Yes, when they came to Vrindavan, everyone was in the renounced order. But Jiva Goswami in particular was a lifelong brahmachari. At present, Sevite Sevaites assume the title of Goswami on the basis of their being engaged as Sevaites of the deity. So if they're worshipping the deity, then they call themselves Goswami. They accept the title Goswami if they are engaged in the service of the deity, regardless of whether they are, you know, sannyasis or not. Family members, they are family people, but they accept the title Goswami if they are engaged in the service of the deity. That means that family, because it is passed on generation after generation. So that whole family is called the Goswami family, the family that is engaged in the service of the deity. That family is called Goswami family at present. The Sevites who have inherited their positions now assume proprietorship of the temples. So now that family claims proprietorship of the temple. The temple was originally worshipped by whom? How was the temple erected originally? By the Goswami who was in the renounced order of life. All the six Goswamis were in the renounced order of life. They erected the temple. They started the worship of the temple. And they engaged their disciples in the service of the temple. But somehow, somewhere down the line, uh, a particular family who was engaged in the service of the deity uh, passed it on in seminal succession. That means that family's children took on the service, and then their children, and the whole family claimed the title of Goswamis because they are engaged in the worship of the deity. Although the deity worship originally was started by the renounced Goswamis, they had no family members. At present, Sevaitas assume the title of Goswami on the basis of their being engaged as Sevites of the deity. The Sevites who have inherited their positions now assume proprietorship of the temples. So not only did they take the title of Goswami, they are calling themselves Goswami, but also they assume proprietorship of the temple. It's like their property, their family property now. It's their property. The temple, the deity, it became their property. They assume proprietorship of the temple. And some of them are selling the deity's property as if it were their own. However, the temples did not originally belong to these Sevites. So we also, need to know the history. It's not that the principle and the philosophy has to be understood. So Srila Prabhupada is teaching everyone the philosophy, right? It's not that you know he's criticizing anyone or anything, but we should understand the philosophy. So the temples were started, the worship was started. We saw how the deity, see, Madhavendra Puri, right? Gopal deity. Of course, Gopal deity is on Govardhan. This is way before even the six Goswamis, even before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But the deities that were installed by the six Goswamis, and the worship was started by the six Goswamis in the same way like Madhavendra Puri, right? He found the deity, or the deity instructed him to worship, and then by his influence people started coming, and somebody built a temple, and then he instructed how the deity should be worshipped. He initiated brahmanas as his disciples, and then he engaged them in service. In the same way the Goswamis also did. Rup Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Jiv Goswami, Loknath Goswami. In the same way, they also did. They, by their influence, first of all, the deities came to them. Krishna came to them in the form of the deity, and then temples were built by their influence. Somebody came and sponsored to build a temple, and then they engaged personally in worshipping the deity, and then their disciples were trained and entrusted with the service of the deity. Somewhere down the line, now the temple and the property of the deity, we saw how people were giving gifts. They were giving cows. So there's a big goshala which belonged to the deity. They also give land so that the deity doesn't have to, depend on someone else for its maintenance. Right? The deity has his own land. So the devotees grow grains and whatever else is needed, milk, everything else is the deity's own, property. But once the temple worship was claimed by one family, not only the worship, but the temple property itself, that means everything else that is connected with the temple, is claimed as the personal property of this family. And they also assume the title of Goswamis, which we know originally Goswami meant the renounced, the six Goswamis, for example, those who are in the renounced order of life. But even though Grihasthas, they assume the title of Goswami, and some of them are even selling the property of the temple, that which belongs to the deity, they are selling it away for their own personal purposes. So this is not right, because it is the Lord's property. Text 105. ए मत वत्सर दुई कोरिला सेवना एक दिन पुरी गोसाई देखिला स्वप्न ए mata vatsara dui korila sevana. So in this way, for about 2 years, the service of Gopal continued. So these two Brahmana devotees that were initiated by Madhavendra Puri, they were doing this service for about 2 years. Seva continued. Ekadina Puri Gosai Dekhila Swapna, and one day after these 2 years, Madhavendra Puri saw a dream. In this way, the deity worship in the temple was very gorgeously performed for 2 years. Then one day, Madhavendra Puri had a dream. What was that dream? That we will see tomorrow. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I'll see you tomorrow. Hare Krishna.